is sure up there, so that's just great to be able to hear from this point. This is Joy Sunday. Now, you usually dressed up for me, but this Sunday, I have dressed up for you.
Well, you did it.
This is Joy Sunday. And it is just a wonderful, wonderful Sunday. I'm so excited about this Sunday. We focused on hope the first Sunday in Advent, and then last Sunday was peace, and this Sunday is joy. This Sunday is known as, I'm going to need help, Karen, Gaudete Sunday, meaning rejoice in Latin. The pink candle that was lit today is called the shepherd's candle. And while the 3 purple candles on the Advent wreath represent penance, we get a reprieve on this Sunday, and we lit the pink candle, and we celebrate with joy. So let's pray before we begin. Our gracious and loving God, please be with us today. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. In 2010, I visited Scotland, and I learned something while I was there, many things, but this one thing our tour guide told us was when the Romans conquered another country, their focus was not so much on getting their subjects to believe or behave in a certain way, or even to bow down to their heads of state. They wanted to create infrastructure within a country. So the Romans weren't really too bad to their subjects, at least not to the ones in Scotland, as long as their subjects didn't mind getting organized. And one way they did this was to build roads, long, straight roads, not the curvy, windy ones as the people of that time were used to. What they built were the forerunners of our interstate system. They built them well, and they built them high. At this time, of course, horses were the main mode of transportation. And while today cars emit gas fumes, the horses emitted something else. And this something else often needed to be cleaned off the roads. So they built the roads high so that the horse emissions could be swept off the roads, making them clean and passable. Since these roads were much higher than the land that was around them, they became known as highways. And that's where our present day term comes from. This came to my mind as I was reading the passage of scripture for this morning. In verse 8, we heard there will be a highway called the Holy Way. The unclean shall not travel on it. Seems like that would cut down on a lot of the traffic. It goes on to say it is for God's people exclusively, and no traveler, not even fools, will go astray or get lost. In other words, there's hope for me, because I'm always getting lost on the road. It also says there's no dangerous animals, no lions on the road. Nothing or no one dangerous or threatening on the road. Only the redeemed will walk on it. The people that God has set free will come back on this road. They'll sing as they make their way back to Zion. Zion is Jerusalem, seen as the perfect place. Everlasting joy, unfading halo shall encircle their heads. Welcome home with joy and gladness. Sorrow and sighing will flee away. What a wonderful road. I would love to travel on that road. There are days, though, that I would get swept off with the horse emissions because of my behavior. None of us are perfect and may from time to time get swept off or voluntarily take a detour from the holy highway. But because of the grace of God, we are invited to come back, to continue to journey with God, attempting to follow in the footsteps of Jesus. As people of God, as Christians, as people who strive to follow our own personal faith, don't we attempt to take the higher road? We try to be model travelers who make the worship of God a way of life rather than a once-a-week event, who strive to be the best that we can be, who reach out to others in need on life's highway, who reach out in love and care and kindness and find joy on the journey. Joy. Isn't that what we want to know? What we want to experience this time of year? It was easier when we were kids, wasn't it? It seems that joy was around the next corner. But then maybe for you as a child, perhaps joy wasn't close by. Perhaps you didn't experience joy because of situations in your childhood. Not everyone had a good childhood. Whether we did or did not experience joy as children, as adults, it seems that we are always looking to find joy one way or another. I heard about one dad who was shopping in a toy store. He said, "That is a terrific train set. I'll take it." The clerk said, "Great. I am sure that your son will love it." The father said to her, "Yeah, maybe you're right. I'll take two." I don't want to make light of those having difficulties around Christmas time. It is so often a hard time for so many people. It's hard to find joy. For some, it is hard to find joy because of events in our lives, sad, difficult, and even trying times. These times don't cease just because it's Christmas. There is still illness, there is still death, grief. There are still economic difficulties, dissension, heartbreak, frustration, depression, and so much more. There's no getting around that. But in spite of this, the Isaiah passage today invites us to look for joy anyway. Seems like a very tall order, doesn't it? I am reminded of the song by Johnny Lee, who said he was looking for love in all the wrong places. I believe that sometimes we look for joy in all the wrong places. Sometimes we confuse joy with happiness. Happiness is surface level. It is connected with certain events. It's often short-lived. When the specific event is over, the happiness fades. Society tells us what should make us happy. Glitz and glamour, all that money can buy, the biggest and best of everything. And when we see others with these things and we see that we don't have them, we might feel isolated or depressed. Or perhaps those things have been acquired and we only find out that they really don't bring us joy. The French have a story about a millionaire in his palace who spent his days counting his gold. Beside the palace was a very poor cobbler who spent his days singing as he repaired shoes. The joyful singing irritated the rich man neighbor. One day the rich man decided to give some gold coins to the cobbler. At first, the cobbler was overjoyed, and he took the coins and hid them. But then he would get worried about the coins, and he would go back to see if the coins were still there. Then he would be worried in case someone had seen him, and he would move the coins and hide them to another place. During all of this, he ceased to sing. Then one day he realized that he was not singing anymore because of the gold coins. So he took them back to the rich man and he said, "Take your coins and give me back my songs." Joy, unlike happiness, is not merely at the surface level. It is deeply seated within us. Joy may not manifest itself in smiles and laughter, but rather in grace and assurance. Joy might be described as knowing that something better exists and holding on to that something which is better. Max Lucado tells a story about Robert Reed. Robert's hands were twisted and his feet useless. He can't bathe himself, he can't feed himself, he can't brush his own teeth, comb his hair, or put on his underwear. His shirts are held together with Velcro. His speech drags. Robert has cerebral palsy. Max says, "I heard Robert Reed declare, 'I have everything I need for joy.'" Amazing thought. This disease keeps him from driving a car, riding a bike, or going for a walk, but it didn't stop him from graduating from high school, from then attending Abilene Christian University, from which he graduated with a degree in Latin. Having cerebral palsy didn't stop him from teaching at St. Louis Junior College or from venturing overseas on 5 mission trips. And Robert's disease didn't prevent him from becoming a missionary in Portugal. He moved to Lisbon alone in 1972. There he rented a hotel room, and there he began to study Portuguese. He found a restaurant owner who would feed him after the rush hour, and a tutor who would instruct him on Portuguese. "I heard Robert Reed speak recently," said Lucado. I watched other men carry him in his wheelchair onto the platform, and I watched them lay a Bible in his lap. I watched his stiff fingers open the pages, and I watched people in the audience wipe tears of admiration away from their faces. Robert could have asked for sympathy or pity, but he did just the opposite. He held his bent hand up in the air and boasted, "I have everything I need for joy." His shirts are held together by Velcro, but his life is held together by joy. This real-life story from one of God's special people demonstrates that the source of joy depends on our attitude in life. It has nothing to do with the events of your life, but with the deeper orientation of your life. Joy is a gift from God. You have seen and heard cheerleaders at ball games. Well, I would like to say that we have two people in our congregation who I believe are joy leaders. And they are Christy Klein. And Loretta Aramillo. Their presence exudes joy, and their smiles can light up a room. I truly believe that you are joy leaders in our church. And I'm sure that they are joy leaders wherever they go. What is on your wish list for Christmas? Is joy one of them? As you go about this week, ask yourself, what actions will I take to develop joy in my life? Not happiness, but deep down joy. Take time to pray for guidance and to be intentional about how you spend your time. Focus on at least one activity this week to increase your assurance of God's goodness prevailing, and you will find joy. Then double that joy by sharing it with others. Help a friend, reach out to a stranger, be company to someone who is lonely, comfort someone who is sad, or just sit and be with them. Reflect the light of Jesus. Shine with light and love. Now, I have a song that I'd like for us to sing. And I haven't told Marlene about this because I'm going to leave it. We'll see about that. We'll see about this. Now, the words are going to be up on the screen. And it's to the tune of Deck the Halls, and it has la 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 la, you see it. Now, the words have been changed to fit what we're doing today, but it doesn't necessarily fit as easily with the tune. But we're going to give it a shot anyway. All right? If I start on the right tune, the right note of the game. Okay. We reflect joy.